Are you ready to stop shrinking to fit into someone else's version of success? Welcome to Illuminate Your Worth, the podcast that helps you remember who you are and reclaim your light. Hosted by transformation facilitator Heather Stewart, this is your space for soulful conversations, coaching insights, and reminders that you're not here to settle. You're here to shine. Now let's dive in.
Hello, my friend. I always listen to the opening, and no matter how many times I hear it, I'm like, oh, yes, right. We are here to reclaim our light because life can sometimes make us feel a little dim, can't it? Right? We can sometimes put this heavy weight on ourselves. And I am Heather, and I had too have borne these weights that we're going to talk about. And you are listening to Illuminate Your Worth on the Inspired Choices Network. If you're listening live, come over to the chat room and talk to Dana and I. We're just hanging out over here, having a good time, talking about Mother's Day. And today we're going to talk about something that I was reading on Substack. And it was a really good article. Substack asks you to just land and ground yourself for a minute or two. It's not a reel, it's not a meme, it's not how many things can you scroll through in one sitting. It is like really land and have a think about this. And I was reading an article by I don't even know what to call them. Substack is so new for me. Is it like a page? Maybe I'll call it a page, an author. And the author is called Dark Feminine Codes. And something about this appealed to me, that just even the name of what the authorship was. But it was talking about how we somewhere pick up along the way in our lives that if it wasn't painful, then it didn't count. And I had to kind of stop and think about it. And there is some truth in there. Like there's this little underneath part of us who thinks that if it was easy, it didn't count. Or, if we didn't suffer enough along the way, then we didn't earn whatever the accolades or reward is. Why do we think that we have to suffer to earn anything? Just being born is, that's pretty amazing right there, right? You earned the right to be here just by being born. And you didn't make it up yourself. This isn't something that you made up. You didn't come out saying, okay, I want to suffer now. What suffering can you bring me? You came out going, Yahoo, let's party. We learned it by watching probably our moms, because that's who we spend a lot of time with when we're little, you know, suffering, long suffering, burnout, stress. And sometimes you'll hear someone say something like, oh, I earned this because I suffered so much. So when we're going to talk about this today, I want you to think about, do you notice that if anything starts to get easier for you, that part of you starts to feel a little uncomfortable? Artists are terrible at this, by the way. And this is not a gender thing. This is just like artists who are super talented. And I'm guilty of this. One day someone said to me, can you draw me a bath? And I was joking around. So I drew them a bathtub. They were British. That's why they were saying, can you draw me a bath? And I drew them a bathtub. And they looked at it and they said, how did you do that? I said, what? I just drew a bathtub. It's not like it was rocket science. And they were super impressed. And I was just like, no, 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 that's not real art. Part of me was like, no, no, that's not, like, I didn't suffer for this. So it's not, I don't earn any reward for this. Or think about this. Have you ever felt more legitimate about anything that you received when you were exhausted instead of at peace? Is it more legitimate to be burnt out and exhausted. If you've ever listened to the podcast, even the previous podcast where I talk about martyrs, martyrs just kill themselves at the end of the day. They drive themselves into the grave. And what's your reward? You're dead or you're burnt out. And I know that we are all guilty of this one. I just can tell in my bones that if you've ever rested, you feel guilty. And this goes back to what my sick enough? Was I sick enough to take a day off? Am I tired enough to rest? These questions that pop in our head. And that is that whole, you're proving your worth through exhausting yourself. This is not logical. If you like logic, what is the logic in that? There is no logic in that. I can walk on both sides of the fence. I can look at the logic. I can look at hmm, the qualitative and the quantitative. It's not good for me. I know it's not good for me. Why do I keep doing it? There's a feeling inside of me that wants to keep doing it. What is that feeling? Where does it come from? So I kind of flip back and forth, right? So I'm not going to give you a hard time about working hard. This is not what this is about. I work hard. These days, I work hard on stuff I really like doing 99.9% of the time. I still have to do my taxes. And this isn't not about not having ambition. So sometimes we get confused. We mesh things together that don't necessarily fit together. So you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to exhaust yourself to prove that you're worth. And that's not the same as wanting something and working hard towards something, right? There's different kinds and different intentions behind what why you're doing something. And I'm not going to pretend that life is easy. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. If it was, I mean, we would probably all reject the programming like they did in the Matrix. Oh, we tried to make, what did he say? We made a utopia, but we kept losing crops of humans because they wouldn't accept the programming. The Matrix was basically saying we program ourselves for suffering, right? And what I want to look at today is I want to look at this weird belief we have that it is the suffering that makes you a good person. It's the suffering that makes you maybe more valuable or more deserving. And why we do that. And if that's actually serving us, you get to decide if it's serving you or not. I'm just gonna do what I do, talk about it and see what we think. So if you are someone who's super high functioning, you can handle so much and you look great on the outside, but inside, maybe you're getting resentful of people who aren't carrying their weight. Maybe you're just exhausted. Maybe you're a little disconnected from what's going on. You're having trouble feeling your feels, good or bad. And maybe you're the only one who knows that you're like this on the inside, because outside you look fabulous. Because so many of us unconsciously link this worth and exhaustion together like a chain, right? And it's just because we learned it. It's just because we learned it. The great thing about stuff we learned, you can unlearn it. Old dogs can learn new tricks. I say that to my husband all the time because now he's in his 60s and he's still learning things. And I think one of the keys to this life that we have, and this comes to me more and more as I get older and older, just keeps happening. Um, as you get older, no matter what your age is, I'm not saying it's better to be older or younger. Like this isn't where I'm going. But as the more life you live, the more experiences you have. Those experiences can trap you in concrete so that you just shrink and shrink and shrink your world, and they become hardened. They're not impossible to change, just can be harder to change. So experiences that become so ingrained in you that it's hard for you to see that it's just a pattern that you have. And nobody's perfect at any of this, right? But another way to look at it is when experiences happen to you, they can inform you and they can help you keep on the learning path. And this is why I talk about curiosity so much. You can take two people from the same family. I look at me, I'm the oldest of four kids. I'm the oldest of four. We're all really different people. Now, we haven't had, you know, carbon copy lives. We've had very different lives. We grew up in the same house-ish, right? But we're all quite different. And part of it is, I believe, like when you're growing up, the experiences that you have start to to create who you are and how you view the world. And how you view the world makes a massive difference in how you feel as you go through your life, right? So think about, even like, I know twins who are very different people. And you got to imagine that they had pretty much the same life. But if you stay curious, so if you allow your experiences to harden you, it becomes very hard to change anything. If you allow your experiences to inform you, to remain curious about, then you have that chance to use that amazing experience, integration, whatever it is, and become this person who can keep growing even as you have more life experiences, right? As I'm talking about, old dogs can learn new tricks. And, you know, I love this show. The pattern, so there's a pattern that you are living through, right? And we all have patterns. This is how we get through life. Otherwise, we'd have to like relearn everything all the time. The patterns are not the problem. It's the patterns that aren't helping us that we would like to maybe have something different. So if you're exhausted, it's not always a scheduling problem, right? It's not like you're having trouble fitting everything in your day. Maybe exhaustion is, an identity issue because you identify as the person who has to do everything and take care of everything. I had this client for a long time. She had two adult sons and an adult husband. They were all adults, and she managed the schedules for all of them, all of them. And she was always stressed out when she came to see me and exhausted. If I had known now what I knew then, if I'd knew now, if I'd known then what I know now, I may have said something to her. She might not have been ready to hear it though, but I just tried to help her de-stress. This was when I was a massage therapist. So maybe it's not a scheduling issue. Maybe it's a self-worth issue. Maybe you're not worthy unless your schedule is full and you're doing, 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 doing. Pardon me. Um, or maybe it's just a really deeply learned survival strategy, right? Like, was it last week or the week before where I was talking about survival strategies? Or perhaps that was a Substack article that I've been writing on Substack, by the way, my friend, and pop over there and have a read. They'll even tell you at the beginning of the article how long it's going to take you to read it. And I kind of laugh because I'm like, how do you know how fast I read? Does AI know that much about me now that it knows how fast I read? But Substack is a place where there's so many deep thoughts going on. And maybe you learned that being useful made you safer, right? Or that, if you handled everything, um, then everything was taken care of and managed before people got upset. Or do you become suspicious of rest? Do you judge other people consciously or unconsciously if they take a day off or they rest? Because there are people out there who are really good at resting. They're just like, I'm going to rest now. And if you look at them and you're Judgy McJudgerson, Well, that could be something for you to think about, right? Like why? Why are you judging them for needing rest and taking rest without feeling bad about it? So maybe being easy starts to feel like you're lazy, or if you need support, it feels like weakness. Or maybe if you feel like if you slow down, you'll lose your identity as whatever you use to self-identify. So we're going to go on a break, but just think about this. If you've always been praised for carrying everything, then putting down that responsibility might feel like you might feel like a failure, right? So contemplate this, like, are you trying to prove your worth through all of the stuff that you do? Oh, but take it lightly. Like, don't give yourself a hard time. While we're on our first break, pop over to whatever platform you're on and give us a 5-star review. Please, please, please. Like, subscribe, and share. I got to write those words down because I always forget them. And I am Heather. We're on Illuminate Your Worth on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
What if your too much was actually your superpower? On Illuminate Your Worth, Heather Stewart guides you back to your truth with coaching, mindset shifts, and powerful conversations designed to light up every corner of your life, from career and creativity to wellness and worth. Tune in weekly and discover how to stop surviving and start thriving on your own terms. Listen to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart on the Inspired Choices Network and wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
You're listening to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart. Want to connect live during the show? Join the studio audience in the chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send questions or coaching requests to info@heatherstewart.coach. Let's get back to today's episode and your path to a thriving life.
So, what do you think? By the way, you can always send me an email. Like, I think this, Heather. I'm trying to tune into you and hear your answers, but I can't always hear you. So just send me an email and let me know. info@heatherstewart.coach. I don't have a VA. I answer my own emails, right? So we learn all of this pattern of proving that we are good enough, lovable enough, whatever you want to fill in the blank, by doing all of the things through observation, right? Imagine your grandmother. So my grandmother, she was a stay-at-home mom, but she came through the war. My grandmother's wedding picture, my grandfather is in uniform. And I always thought, wow. And she's wearing a suit. She's not even wearing a wedding dress because I don't think they could get they could get the fabric. You know, when my grandparents moved my mom to Canada from England, the UK was still on rations because of the war. So imagine all the stuff that your lineage, your grandparents lived through, even your parents, depending on where you're from, and they survived by enduring. You know, I'm very British, keep calm and carry on, stiff upper lip, all of that jazz. I'm deprogramming that still. And you also learn that in corporate, right? Hustle, 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 the hustle culture. You already know if you've been listening, I am anti-hustle. I did the hustle. I did all that. I'm over it. I I crashed really hard from the hustle culture. And, we have all of these things. Corporate hustle, gender expectations can come in. I'm not talking gender politics. Maybe your religion or your culture has conditioning on you. You could have had stuff happen to you, big T trauma, little T trauma, just, the unpredictability of life. And you just may have over time developed this idea that if you weren't working hard, you weren't allowed to have anything. Because what did they say? They always tell you hard work. Hard work pays off. You've got to work hard, play hard. Why do we have to work hard? It's funny because I have a thing on my desk here. Your hard work is paying off. Right there, I'm already programming myself. I'm going to take that one down after this show. My hard work, I don't have to kill myself to receive rewards. And the people who we learned this from were not wrong. They weren't weak. They were just surviving the best they could. Whatever your parents, grandparents, whatever you learned things from, whatever they passed down to you, I have a deep belief that all of these people were doing the best they could with what they had and what they knew and their experiences, because they're just humans. They're trying to get along. They're trying to learn as much as you're trying to learn. And I just have a lot of compassion for people who had children. Like, oh my goodness, I have so much compassion for parents. I chose not to have children, or I suppose I chose not to give birth to children. I have mothered many people, but I have so much compassion for these people who are working within a pattern that they've learned while wanting something. I know they're wanting something beautiful and amazing for their children. And how do those things kind of come together? So, some women, they inherit their jewelry, some inherit their recipes, some just inherit a nervous system that says life is dangerous. You can't always choose what you inherit, but you can choose whether to accept it or not, right? So, how can this show up? Maybe you overcommit. We all know people whose calendars are jam-packed. In fact, I have a very good friend. Her calendar is just insane. Maybe they don't delegate, or I have known a lot of business owners. I mean, I did spend 15 years as a CPA. I did go into a lot of businesses. A lot of business owners, especially smaller business owners, don't delegate, or they do delegate and then they micromanage, which is not delegating. When you give someone something to do, and this doesn't even have to be business, maybe this is just life. When you give someone and ask them to do something, let them go do it. By letting them go do it, you're going to help them learn and grow, and you're going to relieve yourself of having to do it. If you give it to them and then you stand over them and tell them how to do it, or tell them how they're doing it wrong, or tell them after they did it how they should have done it, that's not really releasing that, right? You should never feel guilty for leaving on time or closing your office door. I work from home. I close my computer. I'm still practicing at this, but I am working on office hours. At this o'clock on this day, I will stop working and I will close my computer. You can think about, if you find yourself distrusting things that are too easy or going too well, because you think that, the shoe's going to drop. That's one of those sayings we have, right? Oh, I feel like something bad's going to happen. It's all going too well. What? Why can't you just have fun where you are? So if you find that, just start to look at that, right? Just start to be curious about it. We're not going to solve this overnight. We're going to keep working on it. And are you always the giver in a relationship? Do you allow yourself to receive? Sometimes it's not the fact that the other person's not giving. It's you're blocking the receiving because you don't feel like you've earned it, because you haven't worked hard enough. I haven't given you enough. I can't receive, right? Do you feel uncomfortable with receiving care? Yes, we know people like this. Do you feel some resentment about some of the circumstances in your life, but you're not taking the steps to change what's causing it? So I'm thinking about someone that I spoke to who was repeating a pattern of it, and this was in her workplace, overgiving, overgiving, like working harder and harder and harder and harder, and being resentful that her partners in her business weren't weren't contributing. But they probably felt like, well, we don't need to because you're doing everything. And she was already through two of these partnerships, and she was headed into a third until we kind of unpacked it and realized that she never spoke up until the resentment was so big. There was no options but to end the partnership. When you let those things stay and build, think about the pile of manure. The bigger the pile of manure gets, the stinkier it gets. It's harder to get rid of, right? For my farming friends out there. And you don't have to earn love at all. You don't have to earn love by proving that you've earned it, right? Um, you don't have to do everything perfectly. It doesn't have to be weird if success comes easily. You you don't have to discount your natural gifts. Like when I drew the bathtub, at that time I was like, oh no, no, yes, I do have a natural gift for drawing, apparently. And I've just always had it, but I would always discount it. Like, oh no, it was easy. Therefore, it doesn't count. Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy talk, right? So sometimes we don't work hard just to get the thing that we want, right? Like, I don't mind working hard to achieve a goal, but I'm not working hard to prove myself that I'm allowed to have that thing. That's that subtle difference, right? You can work hard if it's something you want, then yes, go for it. Don't kill yourself for it. I don't know of anything in life that is worth, killing yourself over, but you don't have to work hard to feel like you're allowed to have that. So that's like this very fine line we're going to talk about here. And you'll catch yourself on one side and then the other, and on one side then the other. And that's okay. I mean, that's where learning comes in, right? So if your identity was built around being needed by everybody else, then being quiet and peaceful you might feel lonely, you might feel empty, you might feel like there's something missing because nobody's needing me right now. I should be doing something. I mean, it's kind of the same, but kind of not the same. When I wrote my CPA exams, four exams over four 4-hour exams over 4 consecutive days. And at the time, you graduated from university and then you studied for a year, a little over a year and a half, studied constantly for a year and a half to get to those exams while working. So the day after the exams were over, sitting down, so I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't have to study anymore. The exams are over, but I should be studying. No, no, I don't have to study. I should be doing something. No, you don't have to do anything. This conversation goes on in your head. So if we're in this like state of constant vigilance, when do you get to relax, right? Being at peace and resting, it can feel like you're waiting for the calm before the storm. What if no storm ever came and you were always waiting for it? So if you're in that constant low grade of vigilance, then you're always bracing for something. And even if there's no crisis, it's like you're looking for one. And if you're looking for it, you're probably going to find one. You get what you look for, right? And resting isn't lazy, by the way. This is just like we're crashing together ideas, boom, and we're going to explode into a whole new idea. So maybe you're busyness isn't a time management problem, but a safety problem. Feeling okay, and nothing is going to happen if there is space in your calendar to do nothing. You can just experiment with it. Just experiment. All this is experiment, right? And so, before I start talking again, because I'll go on another whole tangent, it is time for another break, my friend. While we're on our break, head over to Substack and subscribe to it's free. Subscribe to the articles, and because I have deep thoughts. I have deep thoughts, and I can't always share all of my deep thoughts in this short time frame of the podcast because Dana cuts me off. So go over to Substack. Heather Stewart Coaching is, I think, how you'll find me. This is Heather on Illuminate Your Worth on the Inspired Choices Network, and I'll be right back.
What if your too much was actually your superpower? On Illuminate Your Worth, Heather Stewart guides you back to your truth with coaching, mindset shifts, and powerful conversations designed to light up every corner of your life, from career and creativity to wellness and worth. Tune in weekly and discover how to stop surviving and start thriving on your own terms. Listen to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart on the Inspired Choices Network and wherever you get your podcasts.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
You're listening to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart. Want to connect live during the show? Join the studio audience in the chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send questions or coaching requests to info@heatherstewart.coach. Let's get back to today's episode and your path to a thriving life.
Yes, send me an email, info@heatherstewart.coach. On my website, heatherstewart.coach, there's a cool new quiz there. What else is up there? You can find the podcast there. You can find books there. Just had that new book come out on Mother's Day, The Value of Women, where I am the lead author. And what did I write on? Community. But the women in that book were so awesome. A friend of mine wrote about resilience. There's growth. There is self-worth, right? We seem to throw that word around a lot. I feel like I need to do an episode on self-worth because it's become one of those words like follow your bliss that seems to have lost like a concrete meaning, right? Like, what does that mean for us people who like practical? Let's get some practical steps. Thanks, Dina. Yes, I'm just writing myself a note so I don't forget. So we're talking about why we do things to earn, why we have to kill ourselves, become exhausted, overdo everything to earn some nebulous feeling of satisfaction and award and like feel like we're worthy of something. So there is a hidden payoff. Everything that you do, I don't care who you are, including me, everything we do has a payoff for us. Everything. Even if the payoff is not what we want, right? We have done this thing for this particular payoff because we have learned. If I do, like we've learned somehow through repetition that this is a payoff, that somehow we feel like we get something from it, right? So, and I've had this conversation so many times with my coach and my clients, if you have a behavior that's repeating, that you say you don't want, there's still something you're getting from it. There's still something you're getting from it. And it's just trying to figure out for yourself, what are you getting from it that is keeping it in place? So maybe you get to avoid something if you stay exhausted. Maybe you get to keep a certain identity, right? And that's why you keep yourself so busy and, not rewarding yourself with rest or whatever the reward is. Maybe by being in this constant state of agitation or whatever it is, that you don't have to stop and face a truth about yourself or what's going on. The bury your head in the sand kind of idea. Maybe you don't have to, maybe by staying busy, you get to postpone making a decision about something. How many couples do I know who just kept themselves in this state of not having to deal, because they didn't want to face at the end of a relationship, because it was too hard for one of them to just stand up and say, this isn't working, and being honest. And there's going to be some hard things that happen potentially when you slow down, and that shouldn't make you not do it, right? That shouldn't make you not slow down enough to feel the grief if you need to. It's not forever. Maybe you have a desire to do something, but you're keeping yourself busy so that you don't have to say that you want it, because you're afraid you won't get it, because you think you don't deserve it. I mean, oh, my little heart, my heart just breaks for this kind of like thinking, because I know that there is a hard part that comes, right? There is a hard part that comes. I've crashed up against it myself, and it's not fun, and it's uncomfortable, and you feel yucky. But I know that on the other side of it is so much amazing. It's so much amazing. I mean, grief. I mean, I spent 2 years in deep grief for my grandfather. And I actually had to go and get help to help me process it. I needed to talk to somebody about it. And now, when I look back, I'm just so happy for all of the experiences that I had. So, staying busy and avoiding whatever it is, whether it's grief or relationships or your self-worth, whatever it is, keeping those things at bay isn't going to help you get to the other side of them, where the other side is, the grass is actually greener on the other side of this one. I'm just saying. So you gotta go through it. It's part of being human. It's part of being human. It's not scary. It's not terrible. You don't have to do it alone. There's people like me out there. There's all kinds of people out here, even friends, community, whatever it is. There are all kinds of people out there who are here to help you with whatever it is. And if you are thinking that you need to prove yourself through overdoing, through exhaustion, and if you're protecting yourself some way, it might not be conscious or malicious. You might just be protecting yourself. So sometimes it's not even so deep or tragic, right? It's just like, if you're always busy, you don't have to take a look at the life that you have right now and recognize that it's different than the one you want, the one that you thought you wanted, the one that you currently are craving, right? When you see it, because if you slow down enough and see, then you can't unsee. You can't unsee. If you're always needed, then you don't have to meet your loneliness. I know that loneliness is very prevalent, and I'm not saying that people should go out and be lonely, but sometimes it's not loneliness. It's not knowing how to be alone. There's a difference. You can be in a crowd of people and be lonely. You can be alone and not be lonely. I did a podcast episode on that. Alone versus lonely. Go back and listen. And if you're always achieving, if you're always like achieve, 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 promotions, whatever it is, then you don't have to feel the fear of not being enough. By the way, spoiler alert, you are enough already. You don't have to prove that you're enough. It's there's a hypnotherapist, Piers, I can't remember which it is. And her whole business is built on telling people that they are enough. Her whole business. She does movie stars, she does everybody. You are enough. And if you are someone who keeps yourself super busy, proving like doing, and you're always depleted, then you don't have to risk being fully yourself because you don't have the energy to be. And some of us feel really nervous about becoming fully visible. I'm not saying you have to go streaking or anything. It's not like ripping off your clothes and running through the soccer pitch or something. Like your personality, your quirkiness, your beliefs, your dreams, your goals, your ideas. I was I was walking through a government office one day. You might have heard me say this. I've probably said it at least once. And I was wearing these crazy pants that I love. They have peace symbols all over them and rainbows and things. And I was going to renew my passport. And a woman walking by me the other day, in the other direction, said under her breath, but loud enough for me to hear it, she called me a freak. I laughed because, first of all, if I could have, I would have gone and said, thank you, because I don't want to be fit into whatever the narrow version you have of the world is, that these pants upset you. I mean, I was going to teach yoga. Of course, I'm wearing my peace and love pants. So fly your freakinosis flag, my friend, even if it's just a little one. You don't have to like bust it out and have a parade or anything because that might be too scary. And it's not going to be like you flip your switch overnight because that would be too jarring to your nervous system. If you recognize at some point during this conversation that there's things in here that you have a tendency to do and you would like to change them, you can begin changing them. Because the only way to have something different is to start to make some things change. If you don't make a decision, that's still making a decision, right? You're deciding to stay the same. And I'm not saying, like I said at the beginning, I'm not saying that you're never going to not work hard. I work hard when I choose to and intentionally on the things that are moving me towards something that I desire. But I don't have to use hardship or the hard work as evidence that I deserve this thing that I'm working for, right? So you're not going to flip this switch overnight to suddenly go, I'm suddenly worthy of everything, kaboom, and I'm going to rest whenever I want, because you'll still have this old programming that is hanging around in your system. You're still going to have these old ideas that come up, right? And the idea is to recognize what's happening and allow yourself little shifts, right? Small shifts, just little ones, and they start to accumulate. As you shift and shift and shift and shift, you will start to change your trajectory. You will start to change your beliefs. It's not TV. I say this all the time. It's not TV. You aren't going to have, angels singing from on high, and suddenly you have a whole different way of viewing the world. I don't know if that ever happens in real life. We have more of a tendency, think about learning. When you're learning something new, you learn it through repetition. Walking, riding your bike, learning how to write your name, studying anatomy when I was a massage therapist, 2 years of anatomy. You learn through repetition, through practicing, repetition, until it becomes second nature. We're going to do the same thing when we're talking about shifting ourselves from believing we have to earn our self-worth. We have one more break, just one, I promise. I'm Heather on Illuminate Your Worth. We're on the Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back.
What if your too much was actually your superpower? On Illuminate Your Worth, Heather Stewart guides you back to your truth with coaching, mindset shifts, and powerful conversations designed to light up every corner of your life, from career and creativity to wellness and worth. Tune in weekly and discover how to stop surviving and start thriving on your own terms. Listen to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart on the Inspired Choices Network and wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Illuminate Your Worth with Heather Stewart. Want to connect live during the show? Join the studio audience in the chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send questions or coaching requests to info@heatherstewart.coach. Let's get back to today's episode and your path to a thriving life.
So, what do you think? Do you see places where you might be glorifying how depleted you are in the hopes that is earning you your self-worth or your reward, whatever your reward is, right? What do you hear yourself say more often than not? All of the things that I might say to you might come up every now and then. But if it's your regular answer is when you've got to think about it. So if you're like constantly saying, oh, I'm so slammed at work. Oh, I'm so busy. I don't have a moment to breathe. I barely slept. It's been so crazy. I've been so busy. And none of these things are bad. I mean, I've had all of them at various times. But I try really hard not to make them my norm. They aren't my, de facto way of being. And it's funny because in corporate, that was always the answer. How are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. It's like, okay, is that just so the boss won't give you more work to do? Or because you're taking on so much that's how you're proving that you deserve your job? Do you want your job? Do you like your job? Are you doing your job? You don't have to prove it, right? And you can get a little honest here with yourself. You don't have to, share this with the world, but is there somewhere in your life where you're constantly feel like you need to be rescuing everyone? Or you need to control everything that's going on? Control issues are quite common, right? How many people do you know have control issues? When you go into a situation with more than one person, you know who the person is who's going to step in and take over, not because necessarily they're the natural leader or someone that people look up to, but often it's just because they're the person who feels like they need to control what's going on. And are you carrying something emotionally maybe that's not yours in here, right? How are you with accepting help is another thing to think about. Can you receive help without having to repay it immediately somehow in some kind of energetic way? Can you just let it be easy to accept help, whatever form it comes in, and then don't overgive afterwards to kind of bring yourself back into balance? Because sometimes what we'll do is we'll accept help and then we're like, okay, but now the scale is unbalanced and we have to overgive to bring ourselves back in. I received help. Oh my God, I better give back twice as much. That's kind of silly. People want to help you. So here's some things you can try out, right? Maybe little experiments, just little ones. Like I said, we're not going to flip the switch overnight. We're just going to do little things to help us practice. So maybe sit for 5 minutes and do nothing. You can set a timer if you want. Maybe eat your lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever without scrolling. Put your phone far away, even if turn off the sound so it doesn't make any noise. Just eat your meal in peace, right? Leave open spaces in your day without filling them up. And when you try these things, like when you try to sit for 5 minutes without doing multitasking, 10 different things. If you eat without scrolling, if you leave space in your day, what starts to bubble up for you? Like leaving these spaces is when things will start to come up to the surface, right? Because there's not something kind of hogging the bandwidth. So maybe you feel a little guilty, maybe you feel a little restless, maybe you feel irritated. God, eating is so annoying. I've actually heard myself say that. Eating is so annoying. I've got stuff to do. Maybe feel a little anxious. It doesn't mean that any of the things you're trying are wrong. It just means that you're starting to recognize where you've got a pattern, and maybe it's something you want to adjust. Maybe you need to ask yourself, what, like if you're saying that you need to do something to deserve the space that you're taking, what would it actually look like if you didn't have to prove that you needed it or that you deserved it, right? What if you didn't have to prove it? What would that look like? Asking a question makes your brain go look for the answer. So, my friend, you are allowed to have a life that fully supports you. You are allowed to be well and be worthy. You are allowed to stop praying at the altar of exhaustion. I don't know another way to say that. You're allowed to stop thinking exhaustion is the be all and end all. You are allowed to let your success feel good, even if it was easy. And you're allowed to have energy left over from the work you choose to do to have some fun in your life. So, my book was Stop Pretending You're Okay and Start Living You Like You Mean It. And all of these things are to help you do that. So your self-worth is lived, not just an intellectual understanding. This word that we keep throwing around. Gosh. You're allowed to have a real life and make real changes in your life. And you're allowed to choose your life, right? You're allowed to align your body and your emotions and your community. Like you're allowed to have a full and amazing life. You don't have to do anything to earn it. There is no price. That could be like the biggest thing right there. Like you don't have to earn a fabulous life. That's it. You don't have to earn it. So what would become possible for you if you didn't have to suffer in order to make whatever it is you want for your life to count, to be worthy of you, right? And when will you be ready to stop paying this overdoing and overstressing and over everything? And when are you going to be able to stop paying this huge price for the life that can support you? My friend, send me an email if you'd like. I'd love to know your thoughts. info@heatherstewart.coach. I am Heather. We're on Illuminate Your Worth on the Inspired Choices Network. Head over to illuminateyourworth.com because that's where those conversations happen as well.
Thank you for tuning into Illuminate Your Worth. Heather Stewart will be back next week to help you shift your mindset, reclaim your joy, and build a life that fits you. Catch the next episode on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific. Until then, take one inspired step today. and keep shining.